I've always been fascinated by the things we can't quite explain. The places that make you stop and think. How did this even happen? And there's one place that does that better than almost anywhere else on Earth. Stonehenge. A circle of massive stones standing in the middle of an empty plain in England. No writing, no carvings, no instructions. Just silence. People have been asking the same question for centuries. Who built this? Some say ancient priests, others say aliens, and some say we'll never really know. But here's the thing. Stonehenge isn't just a monument. It's a puzzle, a layered ancient riddle made of rock and time. In this video, we're going to explore that puzzle. So let's dive in. When you first lay eyes on Stonehenge, it feels like stepping into a dream. A circle of enormous stones standing quiet and still against the open sky. Timeless, unshakable. But time, as it turns out, has a long memory. And Stonehenge has been part of it for far longer than most people imagine. The truth is, the story of Stonehenge begins thousands of years before the stones we see today were ever raised. Archaeologists have found signs of human activity on this land, going back as far as 8000 BC. That's over 10,000 years ago, a time when mammoths had only just disappeared, and farming was still a strange new idea. At first it was simple: wooden posts, animal bones, fire pits. Traces of people who came here for reasons we can only guess. But then, around 3100 BC, something changed. The people dug a massive circular ditch, about 98 meters or 320 feet across, and built a raised bank around it. This is what we call the first phase of Stonehenge. It wasn't made of stone yet. It was earth, chalk dug with tools made from stone, flint and deer antlers. So how do we know all this? Well, this is where science comes in. Archaeologists use something called carbon-14 dating, a method that measures how much radioactive carbon is left in things like burned wood or buried bones. The less carbon, the older the object. That's how we can date the tools and bones found around the site, like reading time from the ashes. It's not perfect, but it gives us a window, a way to see deep into the past. The answer is in the dirt, or more precisely, in what's buried beneath it. And thanks to that, we know the first phase of Stonehenge began over 5,000 years ago. And yet, the Stonehenge we know, the iconic ring of massive standing stones, didn't appear all at once. It came much later. So if this was just the beginning, what happened next? Stonehenge looks like a single monument, and one idea frozen in time. But that's not the case. It wasn't built in a day, or even in a century. It was a living project, shaped and reshaped over more than 1,000 years. The site went through at least 6 major phases of construction, and possibly more. It all started with something called the Aubrey Holes. 56 pits dug in a ring just inside the earth bank. They may have held wooden posts at first, or perhaps stones. What we do know is that inside many of these holes, archaeologists found cremated human bones. Dozens of them. Who were they? Why were they buried here? We'll talk more about that later. The second and third phases likely involved timber posts and rearrangements we can't fully trace today, because wood rots and memories fade. But by around 2500 BC, things changed dramatically. That's when the blue stones arrived. These smaller, dense stones, each weighing up to 4 tons, were hauled all the way from Wales, over 225 kilometers or 140 miles away. Their name comes from the blue-gray color they show when wet or freshly broken. Shortly after that, the Sarsen stones were added, the true giants of Stonehenge, each weighing up to 25 tons. These are the massive uprights and horizontal lintels that form the iconic trilithons. Then, around 2300 BC, the sixth phase began. The blue stones were rearranged within the circle, possibly more than once. It wasn't just a structure, it was a site that evolved, adapted and meant different things to different people. But how on earth did these people move stones that size across such distances? The blue stones came from the Preseli Hills in Wales, more than 225 kilometers or 140 miles from Stonehenge. Some researchers believed they were moved by sledges, rolled on logs, dragged by hundreds of people. Others suggest they were floated on rivers. Some even think glaciers moved them halfway during the Ice Age, and Neolithic builders just picked them up from where they'd been left. The Sarsen stones, on the other hand, likely came from the Marlborough Downs, about 32 kilometers or 20 miles away. Closer, but far from easy. Think about it. No wheels, no cranes, no iron tools, and still they moved and lifted stones weighing as much as a school bus. Some archaeologists believe they built wooden sledges and grease tracks. Others proposed giant wooden A-frames and rope systems to raise the stones into place. And even today, no one's entirely sure how they did it. So why go through all this trouble? What made Stonehenge so important that people were willing to spend generations building it? No one knows for certain why Stonehenge was built, but there are some fascinating theories. Some believe it was a cemetery. Remember the cremated bones found in the Aubrey holes? The blue stones may have originally marked the graves of important individuals. But after 2500 BC, people stopped burying remains in the center. Instead, they began burying them in a ditch around the edges of the site. Others think it was a solar calendar. The stones are aligned with the sun, especially on the summer and winter solstices. Stand in the right spot at dawn on the longest day of the year, and you will see the sun rise perfectly over the hill stone. Coincidence? Probably not. Then there's the idea of astronomical observation. That Stonehenge tracked not only the sun, but the moon and stars. And some theories are more musical. Researchers discovered that the blue stones themselves resonate when struck, ringing like ancient bells hidden in stone. In 2020, a team of acoustic engineers from the University of Salford, led by Professor Trevor Cox, 3D printed a scale model of Stonehenge. They found that when the monument was complete, it had acoustics similar to a modern-day cinema. Could it be that Stonehenge was once a giant musical instrument? Maybe it was all of those things. Maybe its purpose evolved with the people who built it. But why here, of all places? Today, Stonehenge stands alone, but in the past this land was part of a sacred landscape. Archaeologists have found signs of ritual activity all over the area. Just 2.4 kilometers, or 1.5 miles from Stonehenge, researchers discovered a vast ceremonial complex dating back to 3650 BC, 1,000 years before the stones. It was a place of feasting, ritual and community. People smashed pots, cooked animals and performed ceremonies. This wasn't just a monument, it was part of a network of sacred places. There's also evidence of celestial alignment. Ground-penetrating radar revealed two massive pits on either side of a nearby ancient trackway called the Curses. These pits align perfectly with sunrise and sunset on the solstices. Sun worship, cosmic ritual, something else? All of this leads us to the final, most enduring question. So, who really built Stonehenge? We've seen that its story stretches across thousands of years. We've uncovered the science behind its age, the mystery of its construction, the journey of its stones, the fairies behind its purpose, and the sacred ground it stands on. But was it built by one group? One vision? No, that's the most incredible part. Stonehenge wasn't built by a single people, but by many, generations of builders, over centuries, each adding, changing, adapting, each bringing their own beliefs, their own reasons, their own hands. Some say it was the druids, but they came thousands of years too late. Others whisper about aliens. And while that might make for a good movie, the truth is even more amazing. It was us, the ancestors of the people who would become the English, the Welsh, the Irish and the Scottish. Neolithic farmers, Bronze Age ritualists, forgotten names and forgotten faces, united by a common dream, to build something that would outlive them all. So, who really built Stonehenge? Maybe we'll never know all their names. But we know this: they were determined, they were skilled, they were human. I hope this answered your questions, and if not, I hope it left you with a little more wonder about this incredible place. I want to thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you again in our next video. Until then, I'm the Chronicler, reminding you to like, subscribe, and remember that history is written in mystery.